Hi, welcome to DT Cases. This is a continuation session for Azure Data Factory. In our previous video session, what we have done is we have created a storage account. In that, we have created a container is input, and in that, we have copied a blob storage is emp.csv. Also, we have created a Azure DB, and in that, we have created a table called employee. And we have created Azure Data Factory. In that, we have created two data sets, input.csv, output table, and created a pipeline. So if you did not watch the video, please watch the session 1 to continue watch to this session. So now in this session, what we are going to discuss here is, in this particular data sets, input CSV or output table, we have hard coded this particular blob name. So in order to make the generic pipeline to process the multiple blobs or tables data, so I want to remove this hard coded value at the file name. So instead of that, I'm going to create a parameters. So I'll name this as a file name, and I want to use this parameter under the connection. So instead of this file name, I will click on add dynamic content. So when you click on the dynamic content, so click on the file, so you will get the parameter name. So what is that is the data set dot file name. So this is the parameter has been added at that particular file name location. Perfect. Now what we have to do here is we want to repeat the same steps for the table as well. So I don't want to stick for this pipeline to process only this employee record. So for that, I'm going to click on edit and remove this employee here and select that add dynamic text. And so we have to create the parameter. So create the parameter, name it as table name, and then go to the connection and click on the table, add the dynamic content, name it as dataset.table. So now click on the debug. It will prompt you pipeline validation output. Copy.1 no value provided for the parameter file name, or copy.when no value is provided for the parameter table name. So where it is validating here is when you go to the pipeline. So here you can able to see that pipeline parameters where it was added. So I will call this as a emp.csv, and then here in the sync I will use the table name is employee. Perfect. So here we pass the table name is employee, source is emp.csv. So you can debug and trigger initiated and refresh to see the status in progress. Succeed. So go back to the server and run one more time. So might be you will see that multiple data. So here one thing we have to see here is now we have created the parameters at the data set level. But in pipelines, when you go to the pipeline, the parameter values, it is prompting in this way. The copy one, this particular function service is expecting these two parameters like that. So you cannot able to enter the values at this window itself. When you click on that, you have to go here and you need to enter the values. For that, I'm going to generalize the parameter values at pipeline itself. So in order to get this parameters link, click on anywhere. Don't select this copy data, click anywhere in this window, then you will get these parameters. So give the parameters name is file name. So for the difference I will tell this as a pipeline file name, and one more parameter is pipeline table name. Perfect. So these particular parameter values we need to pass to this function wherever we are want to pass to these data sets. So click on the dynamic content and pass this file name, pipeline file name. So it is coming at the rate pipeline.parameters.pipeline file name. And then go to the sync. You can able to see here, and instead of hard coding you change the value to pipeline table name. So you are passing the pipeline table name parameter, then you can click on the debug. See, now when you are passing the parameter values at the pipeline, so you got a window that you need to pass the input values to run this pipeline. What are the input values is, you need to pass the file name, you need to pass the table name. So here it is a little bit confused. I will clarify here. The one which we created the, for example, I'll enter this mp.csv and employee and click on OK button. So now go back to here and click on run. So check whether, so it is still in queue, in progress, success. So go back to the SQL server. So now you can find 6 records. So now what we have to do here is, I'll repeat the steps what we have performed now. We have created a parameters at dataset level. So, and that parameters we are passing at the connection string. So for example, later sessions, if you want to use any other CSV, for example, you have a department CSV file, you need to process at the department, you can pass that CSV name and the file name at the prompt. It will process that file records automatically without creating a multiple pipelines. So for that we have created under the table dataset, we have created a parameter called table name and the connections, and also in the input CSV dataset we have created a parameter called file name and we have passed the connection. Perfect. So after that, in order to make the prompt the window, when you run this particular debug, it has to prompt that whatever the input parameters is expecting at this pipeline level, you have created a parameters at pipeline level and you pass that values to the dataset parameters. Now you can pass the whatever the table name. For example, it is having department.csv, or you can have the table is department. Perfect. So the same way you can able to process using the same pipeline. It's a generic for all the tables which you can able to process from blob container to the table. So this is how you can able to generalize the process using the parameters. Now in this session we will discuss one more topic is the triggers. So you can make ad hoc trigger. So click on the trigger now, or you can click the schedule triggers. So click on add new. So here you will get the options is schedule, tumbling window, storage events, custom events. So these are all the different triggers is available for the specific purpose. But schedule and tumbling window is very much similar, But in this tumbling window, you will have the additional feature called, in advance, you can able to see the add the dependency triggers. For example, this particular trigger has to start the processing the job. You can able to add the dependency trigger. Until that particular trigger has finished, this job can wait. But this schedule, it will run automatically. Whatever the time you have been configured, it will run automatically. It will not bother for whatever the settings or whatever the dependencies is there. It will not bother for that. But when there is a scenario for you, you have a dependency trigger. So meaning particular job has to complete, this particular trigger has to start. You can add that particular trigger, and you can also add the maximum occurrency and retry policies and retry policy intervals in seconds. All those things settings you can able to do with this tumbling window. And also storage events. As I told that this particular event, the storage event trigger, will help to process the one container blobs into another container. For example, you have a container called input. So this particular container data, I want to drop into the one more container called output. So how we can able to do is, using this particular trigger, you can able to copy. In the next session, I will show you how we can copy the one particular blob or container data into another container. So we can use that time with this particular storage account. Or custom events. When you want to perform the events hubs data, you can use these custom events for the different purpose. Event grid, you can use this particular custom events trigger. Perfect. So for now, I'm going to create a schedule and run every day once, every 1 hour, and specify the end date. You can specify what is the end date also. So this is the specific end date, and click on OK. So it is prompting that make sure you have published your for the trigger to be activated after clicking OK. So if you don't publish this particular pipeline, this particular trigger will not work. So click publish all. So there is an error that pass that emp.csv and employee and click OK button. So click on publish one more time. So it will prompt you what are the resources been publishing. You can able to see here pipeline 1, input CSV, output table, and trigger 1. Click on publish. So publish is in progress. Perfect. So the publish is completed. For example, if you want to trigger the job, you can click on the trigger now. So it will prompt you whatever the input values it is required, emp.csv and employee, and click on OK button. So the pipeline started running. You can refresh here, or you can go to the monitor and you can see here what are the loading the pipelines. So this particular job is successful, which we have done now. So the job is success, and you can able to see under monitor pipelines runs, you can able to see, and the triggers, if the triggers run schedule tumbling window storage. Based on that, since we triggered ad hoc, you can able to see all the pipelines, or if you how many times you have run in a debug mode, you can able to see here. How many times you have triggered ad hoc, you can able to see here.